when I think mindset, I think of people want to get better at their mindset, but they actually don't want to do the work to do that. And in particular, junior athletes think that they can flick a switch. These players, and I saw Novak Djokovic in an interview the other day talk about how important his mindset is, and he works on it every day. It's no different to training a muscle. Training the brain is a muscle, and you need to train it day in, day out to make sure it gets stronger. You need to fertilize it. You need to feed it. You need to water what you want to grow. If you want your mindset to get better, you need to water it. So that's, day in, day out affirmations, day in, day out visualizations. It's the ability to meditate and be process driven. It's being on the court and practicing process driven situations as you're practicing. It's, as a coach, me making sure that I'm in the process mindset and not focusing on the outcomes of what's occurring on practice courts, because we get so caught up in the, is it in, is it out, did I win, did I lose, did I play well, did I not play well, and that's the challenges. So the ability to train the brain is something that I feel a lot of players miss out on, and they think that they go into a match and that if I flick the switch, I can be positive, or I can be process driven, or I can be, really in the process mindset and not focus so much on the outcomes. But there's no switch for that. So I think if we can think of our brain as a muscle and think that in pre-season, this is the best opportunity to get into a really good habit, whether you wake up every morning, 6 a.m., the alarm goes off, and you meditate and you do that sort of stuff early. You go for a walk, listen to a podcast. These are the things that I think if we can get ourselves into that frame of mind every single day and make it a habit rather than making it a switch, I think we're going to be much better off.
Yeah, 100%. And on that note as well, we have a pretty comprehensive psychology course actually with yourself and our performance psychology expert, Nick, as well. So all of you guys, that's included with your membership. So go and check that out for sure. That's a really helpful one. I think what I was curious about there as you were speaking was you obviously talked about the importance of setting goal setting instead of expectations. And do you have a specific process for goal setting with your players that you go through? How do you go about actually setting achievable goals that are going to push them, but also not be too hard?
I think goal setting all comes back to the process goals. So whether or not that be with your strength and conditioning coach about, I want to get my speed up over this preseason. So you might look at, testing before, testing after, or my strength up, test before, test after. Or it might be, the beep test or the yo-yo test or whatever it might be, test before, test after. Then it might be get your data analysis done, test it at the end of the playing season, and test just before you're about to start your match play or your tournaments again, or test 3 months into that and get enough sample size to be able to use. Those sorts of things are more important around the goals. So I think it all comes down to the collection of your data, even collection of your vision. If you don't want to use an analysis sort of session with a data analyst, or you don't want to use an S&C coach, get some vision of yourself. And I think if you had vision of, say, 4 weeks before, have 3 or 4 little process goals that you want to achieve, and then watch the vision 3 or 4 weeks later and see if you're starting to change patterns of play or movements, or watch with your coach, watch with your parents, and look at those things. I think that's really important. So the evidence side of it is critical to goal setting. And then obviously, it might be goal setting around this is the amount of tournaments I want to play per year, and this is the amount of matches I want to get, or this is, my goals might be that I want to ensure that every single match I play, I give 100% effort. So you might rate yourself or rank yourself in effort based, and use process driven things, and that will help you perform better. And I think also if you share your goals, I think that's the other one, is write them down and share them with a parent, a coach, a best friend that can help you to stay accountable. A goal might be that every single day you're going to meditate. Now, you might set that with your mum or your dad, or you might set that with your coach, and they help to keep you accountable. I think that's a really important way, because we always, and adults do the same, we all set goals, and then 3 or 4 weeks in, we're kind of drifting. So I think everybody needs someone to keep on their back and to keep them in tune and in check. And Yeah, I think set goals realistically, write them down, and have someone check over them.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's probably a trap that a lot of players fall into, especially on the pro circuit. This year I want to make the fourth round of a major for the first time, stuff like that. I mean, it's easy to have those big goals, but they're the ones that can also crush you if you don't achieve them. So
Yeah.
focusing on things that you can control is key.
I think on that, Connor, just to touch on that, sometimes people perform really well with expectation. So it might be, okay, I'm going to make a quarterfinal of a Grand Slam, and you kind of put that little bit of pressure on, and it kind of makes some people play better. So I've had players that you kind of be really strong on and say, okay, it's not a successful year unless we make a quarterfinal of a slam. So they have to work hard, and it makes them work even harder to achieve that. So sometimes that might help as well. Some players. And then some players might not like the expectation. So, that's where I go back to what I said before is if we can ensure that we know our player really well to set the right goals and the right way to go about it, I think that then can motivate the player to do something quite special.
100%. 100%. I love that. So take us through how do players simulate match conditions during the preseason training? Like obviously, you can do everything in your power, but there's nothing like stepping onto that stage on the AO, or if you're a junior player, a big ITF tournament or whatever it is, it's almost impossible to simulate. But how do you do it?
It is, and it's funny. Like at the higher end, I've done some pretty wacky things, and there's a lot of responsible gambling, I'm going to call it. It might be, okay, winner, loser pays $50 to the winner, or it might be the losing player buys dinner, or there's a penalty on something. And I don't always condone that sort of stuff, but I think if you can try and put that pressure on somehow, working in another sport, which I do in football, in Australian football, we if players are having, kicking for goal, we put, sounds on, like people putting them off, or we have people jumping around and trying to put them off or get in their head. So as a coach, you might get in their head a little bit. There's nothing, as you said, there's nothing like the real thing. You try and simulate it as much as possible, or I think, people or players these days, the best players in the world are super competitive. Super competitive. You cannot make it in this sport unless you can compete. So basically, you put something competitive on it, whether it be money, whether it be dinner, whether it be something embarrassing for them, irrelevant. Nobody wants to lose. Anyone who's a super competitor that wants to be a really good player, they just do not want to lose. So you try to create that competitiveness within the match somehow. And I think once the match starts, people just don't want to lose the match. So I think eventually the penalty probably takes second seat in the carriage, and it kind of becomes, well, I don't want to lose. So that happens. But yeah, it's very hard to simulate what you're going to get on Grand Slams or you're going to get in any professional event. So you just do the best that you possibly can.
Yeah, 100%. And on that same tune, then how do you sort of advise players to deal with those nerves as they come in and step out onto the big stage? And how do you get them to sort of calm themselves down and get into that flow?
Yeah, that always comes back to what we spoke about before, and that's training the process. If you don't train the thinking, you can't play the match in that mindset. I always talk about there's no switch. Like we said before, you cannot go to match day and expect it to happen. If you cannot train this day in, day out, or do not train it day in, day out, it is not going to become a habit. So for any players out there that listen to this, and I've been so fortunate to be around some of the world's best players, and they are putting themselves in match situations every day, pressure every moment, and you've got to train it. You've got to practice it. We do it every week at our school. We put match play in, and we put cameras up, and we put it on YouTube, and we make sure that there's as much pressure as possible. Why? Because it prepares you for what's ahead. If you make training harder than matches, then you go to matches, and it becomes so much easier. I never forget one story of a player that I was actually a hitting partner for through the Australian Open, and she went out to play a match, and I never forget her coach at the time, and I was just part of the team, and her coach gave her 5 or 6 pages of tactics to do during the match. Now, this was this player's first time on centre court, playing a Grand Slam champion on Rod Laver Arena, night match, first night of the Australian Open, she was already pulling her dacks. And I think that the challenge was like, you know, if you put that into someone's head, all this other information, they're just trying to deal with the situation. So it was just trying to be, I think it's just trying to be as simple as possible, and enjoy the moment. You know, like we're seeing players now, in no matter what sport it is, like laughing and giggling pre-match. We never saw that 15, 20 years ago. But it's a matter of trying to get into the state of mind where, you know, you're so content with, you know, being in that situation and allowing yourself to enjoy it and to embrace it and embrace the challenges rather than fearing the challenges. So if you can embrace those moments and you can go out there and have fun, and you're going to play so much better. We play better when we're in a fun state of mind, not when we're in a really stressed, tight, you know, mind frame. So, you know, for me, and I've fortunately but unfortunately been through some really challenging times in the last 24 months of my life. I see things so differently now, but, you know, I think that the biggest thing is, you know, enjoy being in the situations you're in. Have fun doing what you do. You never know when it's the last time you might have that opportunity to play at that level or play at all. You know, I see so many kids break down with injury, never play again. So many pro players break down with injury, never play again. You know, things happen to players that they can't play tennis again. At some particular point in your life, tennis will be done because you physically can't do it anymore. So why not right now we enjoy those moments? And I think if you can get into those states of mind where you can enjoy the challenges rather than fear them, I think you're going to be much better off as a player. Thanks so much for watching. To watch the full video, head to our website, click the link below, and we hope we leave you better than we find you.